everyone? We are back. Welcome to another episode number 2 of Eat the Donut. I don't know why every time I say the name Eat the Donut, I feel like we're on this live television game where you hear the crowd saying, Eat the donut, eat the donut. And in my mind, I don't know how many of you have watched the Harry Potter films. I'm a big Harry Potter nerd, but I imagine it being like when Dumbledore's eating those jelly beans that are flavored in like vomit or like troll bogies and whatnot. They're just different flavored donuts, but they don't know what the flavor is, and they win like $1 million if they guess it right or eat the normal donut. But I just keep hearing this crowd in my head cheering out, eat the donut. So maybe one day we'll have a eat the donut show that is a live television game and everyone's cheering and whatnot. So anyways, welcome back to the pod where you know the deal. I teach you how to, well, maybe you don't know the deal because this is only the second episode, but one take show here. But this is where I teach you how to get off the dieting roller coaster while eating donuts, all your favorite foods, and still losing weight once and for all to live happily ever after. Now, before we get in the show, I got to share something. And I'll tell you what, I've lived in San Diego for pretty much 3 years now. And it is wild how soft I've become with this weather, how much of a baby I am with this weather. Being from Massachusetts, all the New Englanders will know this out there. And I lived there for about 28 years. You would think I'd have this toughness and grit when it comes to weather, especially cold weather. I mean, I feel like Bostonians wear that with pride and sort of like this badge of honor about how cold it is and how they're able to have that grit to survive in the cold. But for me, pardon my French, but fuck that. I am not all about that. But since moving here, within like 3 months, I go outside, and during the winter times, we do have this like kind of winter. Yes, the days are really nice and whatnot for, I'd say, 80 to 90% of the year. But when it's morning here in this December, January, February-ish time, the mornings will be under 60 degrees, closer to like 50 degrees. And I'll tell you what, I am freezing. I'm bundled up in sweatpants, sometimes 2 pairs of sweatpants, a hoodie, a jacket, a beanie, and you'd think it's negative 20 degrees out with looking at my outfit. It is a battle, I will tell you that. So just do me a favor real quick, is pray for me during this cold front I'm getting here in San Diego, a whopping 54 degrees right now, to be honest. But anyways, like I said, I hope you are doing fantastic today. I'm really pumped to dive into today's episode. A topic where is what I feel is like very overlooked. And I think something during fat loss, and a big reason why maybe you or someone you know or just individuals are consistently yo-yo dieting. They're constantly losing and regaining the same weight because they are missing this big phase of fat loss. Now we're talking about this unsexy but absolutely critical and, not critical, one take show, crucial and effective phase of fat loss that you should be taking, but you're not. This is your foundation phase, your foundational phase, building your all-season proof plan. And why this episode is going to be so important, especially if you are someone who has struggled with weight loss over the years, over the decades, because it is what people need to start doing. I have 3 phases I work people through, my clients through, when it comes to fat loss. I call it the 4 Fs. So you have your foundational phase, and then you have your food and fitness phase, and then you have your freedom phase. And if you are someone who you want to continue struggling with fat loss, I don't think anyone really does, but let's say there's some unique character out there that wants to continue struggling for whatever reason. They find it an enjoyable place to be. But if you want to keep struggling with fat loss, keep focusing on phase 2. That's what most of us do, is we focus so much on the food and fitness that we end up not diving into our foundational phase, which I'll go over what that actually looks like a little bit more specifically, but not diving into the foundational phase, kind of doing the inner work, to simply put it. And the funny thing is about, I guess, what's even kind of unique with my coaching is the phase I focus on the least is actually food and fitness. As unique and as funny and interesting as that is, not to say it's not important. Obviously, yes, there's the science, there's the principle behind food and fitness. But what really we're diving into, trying to make change and trying to make change for a lifetime. You got to put more work into your foundational phase, and then over time, the freedom phase as well. like developing that freedom to live happily ever after. No guilt behind having your favorite foods, knowing how to prioritize your health and get your workouts in and eat the protein, eat fruits and vegetables, manage your calories. Because the freedom phase is really what ends up helping you and teaching you how to keep the weight off and maintain your progress at your end goal, which is the goal, right? To get to a point where you lose weight and you know how to keep it off and go about living the rest of your life. Knowing what you need to do in confidence and taking care of your health is like second nature at this point. So in this episode, we're going to talk about laying the groundwork, the solid, no BS foundation of sustainable fat loss. We're not here for quick fixes or crash diets. Think of this as the blueprint for building a house where you can withstand anything from a summer barbecue to anniversary parties to the holidays to Aunt Carol's infamous holiday pie marathon. And I'll admit, I've been guilty of skipping right over the foundational phase, jumping right into food and fitness many, many times, kind of jumping straight into the beast mode with a plan. Picture this, a younger me setting 1,000,000 goals, restrictive diet, cutting out all the sugar, all the fats, all the quote unquote bad foods, having a strict meal plan, doing 2 days at the gym, skipping out on vacations or enjoyable moments part of vacations just to go get workouts in and, not enjoy a drink at dinner and all even these social events, thinking, yeah, I'm unstoppable. And then spoiler alert, I burn out within probably a month or two and end up eating half a Costco cheesecake and a whole entire bag of Costco kettle corn popcorn, because if you've ever seen one of those, they are enormous. They feed a family of like 5 or 6, and they should probably last like a month or two, but I finished in like 2 or 3 days. So trust me when I say starting strong definitely matters. All right, so let's get into it. Why foundation matters. Why does this foundational phase matter so much? Because it forces you to start small and start to build confidence in your habits and behaviors. We already know what happens when we bite off more than we can chew. Again, you get frustrated, you get disappointed, you get exhausted, you burn out, and that's where this continuing cycle of yo-yo happens. You quit when life throws you a curveball and start back up on Monday or next week or next month or next year, whenever it is. The way we want to approach it is, one, we have time. There is no rush. Think about playing the long game here. Play the game where you truly will be patient and take the next maybe 6 months to even 5 years to progress and plan to lose weight once and for all. From this perspective, you don't get mad or sad when you've only lost 3 pounds this month or 2 pounds in 2 weeks and give up just because progress isn't quote unquote fast enough. We go from a standpoint of building confidence in ourselves and what we can do with incorporating these habits in our life to be a part of our life. Because how we lose the weight is going to be a big part of how you keep it off. That's why these 30 days super restrictive diets and have all these million rules don't work, because guess what? Day 31 comes and you go back to your old ways because you actually never learned what to do or what you need to do. So play the long game with this, because wouldn't you be happier losing, let's say, 30 to 50 pounds over the course of a year and being able to keep it off for a lifetime versus, let's say, losing 30 to 50 pounds in 30 to 50 days, but for the next 10 years, you regain and lose that same weight over and over and over and over? I don't think so. So let's dive into reason number 1 why this foundation phase matters, even though I feel like I just gave you 6 reasons above anyways. So as I was saying before, 1, it helps you build your habits, consistency, and your confidence. Imagine you're trying to build a house right now. You wouldn't start with building the roof right off the top or picking out the tile in the bathroom. You begin with the foundation of the house, something strong and stable to support everything else. That's exactly what a solid foundation of fat loss habits and behaviors does for your journey. So with building habits, which habits are these small daily actions that keep everything running smoothly, they're like the bricks of your foundation. Drinking a glass of water in the morning, prepping your meals for the week, setting out your gym clothes, your gym bag the night before may not seem like much on their own, but together they form this system that supports your bigger goals. The beauty of these habits, having these staples, is something that will sort of like work in the background. Like once they're established, they require less effort, less brain power, and this frees you up to focus on other parts of your life while still making progress. So think of these habits as sort of an autopilot for fat loss. They're this sort of steady drumbeat that keeps you moving forward. I always use the example of brushing your teeth every morning. Every morning you wake up, you go in the bathroom, and hopefully you brush your teeth. And it's not even a thought. It's just something that's so ingrained into you because at this point in your life, you know the value of it. But maybe when you were younger, 5, 6, 7 years old, brushing your teeth was kind of a pain in the ass. Like you just wanted to wake up and start playing video games right away, or you wanted to wake up and go eat breakfast or just go do something fun where it felt like such a hassle until you got to a point where you understood how valuable it was and how important it was to your health. And that's where we're trying to get a lot of these habits behind our fitness, behind our nutrition, behind our stress, behind our sleep, and all these important factors that help assist with our weight loss and fat loss. And what paying attention to these foundational habits means is they start to lead to consistency. Consistency is that secret sauce of fat loss. The problem isn't a lack of effort. It's a lacking of sticking to something long enough to see the results. By focusing on these small sustainable actions, you're able to show up day after day, week after week. So let's say you get roughly 3,000 steps a day right now. Start committing to hitting maybe 4,000 steps a day, maybe 3,500 steps a day, maybe 5,000 steps a day, instead of just jumping right up to 10,000 steps a day. Because that's a manageable goal that you can repeat over time. It's not this extreme, extraordinary jump we're taking, but over time, the consistency of these small wins, what does it do? It builds momentum. And what does momentum do? Keeps you going even when motivation fails, when motivation fades. And then when you are keeping up with this momentum, you are being consistent with these habits. It starts building confidence. Every time you stick to a habit, no matter how small, no matter how big, you start to build trust with yourself. You're proven that you can set a goal and still follow through. That trust turns into confidence. And I want you to think about a coworker here, a coworker that you tell to send over an updated project report every Monday morning on your desk, on your email, wherever it may be. And what they do is they end up sending it every Wednesday morning. They miss Monday, they miss Tuesday, but they send it every Wednesday morning. So what happens with you in your trust in their ability to get that report in every Monday? You start to lose confidence in them. You lose confidence in their ability to send that over Monday morning. And guess what? The same goes for you saying you're going to do a bunch of things, a million things, such extreme, extraordinary things when you do 20% of them. And what that does, you actually start losing your confidence. So when I work with someone and they tell me they want to train 5 days a week, they want to be in the gym 5 days a week, they're ready, they're motivated, ready to get cranking. And if that's something we agree on, cool. Send them on their way. Let's see how it goes. And over the course of, let's say, a month, I noticed they're working out 3 to 4 times a week. Now, even though working out 3 to 4 times a week is great, what they're internally doing is continuing to break their promises with themselves. They're telling themselves 5 times a week, but they're only doing 3 to 4. So now there's this little bit in them that is slowly starting to lose their trust in themselves, which is slowly losing a little bit of their confidence. So think of confidence of like a muscle. At first, it might feel weak, but every time you take an action, you follow through with an action, whether, again, it's meal prepping, saying no to the donuts at the office, or getting the gym bag ready, getting your steps in, eating a little bit of protein every morning, having a big glass of water before each meal, whatever that habit is, you're giving that muscle a little workout. And over time, confidence grows. It gets stronger. And suddenly, challenges don't feel as challenging or so overwhelming anymore. You know, it's like the first day getting back into the gym, the first workout you ever have, it kind of sucks. But every workout you continue to get in after that sucks a little bit less. So building habits, consistency, this confidence is really what helps sets a foundation for long-term success. It's not about being perfect, never is, or crushing every goal right away. Like you have a laundry list of goals. We don't have to do all of them. We just got to do something. But it's about showing up, doing your best, and trusting that these small actions will add up over time. Shout out to Coach O'Keefe, my old high school baseball coach, always would say, every single practice, small things lead to big things. You take care of the small stuff today in practice, work on your throws, work out in your at-bats, have a purpose with it, work on those small things. They lead to big things over time, big results over time. So with this foundation, you'll not only reach your fat loss goals, but you'll have the tools to maintain them afterwards since these habits are so ingrained to you at this point. All right, number 2, it helps prevent feeling overwhelmed. Again, start small and keep it simple. I get it. You've got big goals, you're fired up, and you want to do everything right now. Clean up your diet, hit the gym 5-6 times a week, drink a gallon of water every day, get 10,000 plus steps, all starting tomorrow. Now that sounds great in theory, but in practice, it's like trying to learn the salsa, but dive straight into what a dance routine of like Dancing with the Stars. You'll trip over your own feet, you'll probably crash into your partner, and probably again get frustrated with it, wondering if dancing, obviously in fat loss in this case, is really your thing, versus start small with the basic. Master the basics because everything will always come back to the basics. Again, I'm going to kind of use the analogy of baseball, as I was a baseball player, but anytime I was in a slump with hitting, I'd always come back just to the fundamentals of hitting. Get back to hitting off the tee, doing a little bit of soft toss, and slowly just kind of progress my way back up, just getting a better feel for my swing until eventually would translate over time, feeling more comfortable, more confident in my ability for obviously the live pitching. So instead of overwhelming yourself, start with the basic steps. When you're learning the salsa, what do you do first? You learn the rhythm of 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. At least that's what I think. I'm not a salsa dancer myself, but this is sort of the analogy I came up with in my head. And again, that's just starting small with fat loss. So for example, I like the approach of small bits of things you can add in versus taking out to start. So instead of revamping your entire diet and cutting things out, instead focus on what you can add in that will actually help you toward your goals. Maybe it's adding more protein. Maybe it's adding more vegetables. Maybe it's adding more fruit or fiber to your meals. Or instead of crushing a hour-long workout every day, maybe you start by committing to 10-minute walks every day. Or maybe you start by committing to 30-minute workouts 3 times a week. And maybe instead of drinking a gallon of water every single day, you start with having 1 big glass in the morning. Maybe it's 1 big glass before each meal. Or if you're a numbers person, maybe it's a half a gallon each day. Whatever makes the most sense to you. These small steps don't feel overwhelming, but they set the rhythm for progress. Here's the best part. Starting small doesn't just make the things easier. It makes them sustainable. Once you master the basics, you can add more complexity over time. Just like the salsa, once you've got the basic rhythm of the 1, 2, 3, you can now throw in a spin and then a dip and then the fancy dance work, the fancy footwork. So with fat loss, this might mean going from now 4,000 steps a day to 5,000 steps a day, or meal prepping at least your protein to your protein and vegetables, or having that glass of water each morning to a glass of water 3 times a day with each meal. So again, it's about learning the rhythm, mastering the basics, building that foundation so solid that you can dance through challenges without missing any sort of beat. So take a breath and remember, you don't need to do the whole routine. You don't need to take over the world tomorrow. That's the goal. We're trying to take over the world, but we just want to make steps in the right direction. And even as you make these little changes, progress will start to happen. But just little changes over time lead to big results by the end. And lastly, one of the most important, most overlooked reasons why the foundation is so important. You need to address underlying issues. Getting to the root of these fat loss challenges. Fat loss isn't just about eating less and moving more. It really isn't. If it were that simple, everyone would have figured it out by now. You wouldn't be listening to me right now. This is the shit that we avoid and we don't work on, which is a big reason why you continue to struggle with losing the weight or at least keeping the weight off. The truth is, most of us struggle with underlying issues that can sabotage our progress if we don't address them head on. Stress eating, treating weekends like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. I'm sure that sounds familiar. And I won't say these are bad habits. This whole conversation on let's say again, quote unquote, bad habits is something for another day. Because a lot of the times these, again, quote unquote, bad habits, let's see how many times I can do quote unquote in the next 30 seconds. But these habits are there for a reason. They're ideally there to protect us or comfort us in some sort of way. Again, maybe you had an argument with your partner or your spouse and food has always been there. Maybe you had a tough upbringing where you feel this sort of like such negativity. Maybe there's some trauma there, but food has always been there for you. It has always given you that sense of joy, that sense of pleasure. Maybe in some scenarios, it's you have a hard time with boredom. So you need some sort of distraction. That's why we scroll as well. That's why people will drink alcohol, do drugs, watch porn. Like all these sort of things are just habits because they are something that we're not diving into. There's a deeper thing going on there that most likely needs attention, and we are distracting ourselves with this sort of thing. So start to be aware, be curious of what this root cause is. So it's kind of interesting to think about your fat loss journey as this leaky boat. You have this bucket and you're scooping all the water out of your boat back into the ocean. And that little action is the coping mechanisms, right? It's the suppressing. It's even maybe in some cases like the decisions behind severely cutting your calories or taking out foods or doubling up your workouts. But if you don't patch those holes so the boat doesn't sink, and again, that's going to be your stress management, your planning, working on the emotional eating, kind of diving into that a little bit more. If we don't patch the holes, you're just more or less like using more energy over time, which is going to cause this boat to sink. So again, this foundational phase of building the habits is where you patch those holes up. It's where you pause and you ask yourself questions like, why am I reaching for the snacks right now when I'm stressed? Where's that coming from? Why do I feel like I deserve to go overboard on the weekends? Why am I, overindulgent on the weekends and kind of saying, fuck it? Why do I skip the workouts even though I know they make me feel better? A lot of the times we always say, hey, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do more of that. I need to be better with that. But ask yourself, why am I not doing it? What continues to keep stopping me or holding me up from doing those actions? Because once you understand the why, you can start to create solutions around it and work with you and not against you. And I'll share a quick story because as I'm like speaking this is something I'm working through personally in another area of my life. So I'm part of this mentorship with my coaching, and I'm getting assistance behind, business and coaching and all that stuff. And I've always been what I feel like is like this extroverted person. When I'm comfortable with someone, I'll be outgoing. I will be a lot of energy. But when I'm uncomfortable with new people, I am very shy. And I always thought I was just like, hey, maybe I'm introverted in these type of scenarios. It's called an ambivert, someone who is outgoing with people they are familiar with and not as outgoing with people they are unfamiliar with. But going through a therapy session recently, what I discovered is I have this fear of embarrassment. Being a kid, not knowing I have dyslexia and struggling with reading and the way I learned, I always thought I was just dumb, to be honest. I thought I wasn't an intelligent kid. I always thought I just struggled with this and school wasn't my thing, but it was actually the way I was learning wasn't working for me. I struggle with reading the way my brain works, and other ways actually work a little bit better for me to understand information and retain that information. But with this mentorship I'm a part of, every time I go to a group Q&A or there's group stuff going on, I was like the little kid hiding in the corner, like, don't look at me, don't call on me. And now I have more of an understanding, diving into the root of the problem of why I'm like that. Because I'm just scared I'm going to embarrass myself. Because when I was a kid and I had to read out loud, I don't know if anyone else did this, is when you had to read out loud in a class, you'd look and see what paragraph you had to read or what line you had to read. So you count the students, you'd be like, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're like, oh, I'm 6 in line, so I'm going to read this line. And then you'd practice it over and over and over and over again. That was me 1,000%. Never even retained what I was reading, but I was just practicing to make sure I wouldn't embarrass myself, just because I had scenarios where I'd read out loud, get laughed at, get teased at, all that sort of stuff, which just affected me to this date. And that's the reason why I would not participate in these group things. But what I learned is sort of talking to that inner demon, working with it and not suppressing it or working against it or trying to fight it off, is know what would make me feel more comfortable in this is if I did preparation for questions I had to ask rather than just thinking I'd have to wing it. And with that preparation, this sort of conversation I had with this quote unquote inner demon, I got to stop saying quote unquote, but the conversation I had with this inner demon actually started to get a little bit more quiet. It is almost like we were working together, and that's the information it was trying to tell me versus me trying to fight against it and that inner demon just getting even louder. So talk to your inner demons. Don't fight against them. Just figure out, again, that why. What is going on, why this is going on, and how can I work with this inner demon, work with this challenge I'm facing, the root cause of this, so I can better prepare myself, so I can create some sort of solution to work with it versus against it. So some of the common issues, I'll break them down briefly, that I see from a coaching standpoint is stress eating. That's a big one, right? We get stress from work, from family, from kids, from something going on in life, and you grab the pint of ice cream, or you grab the bag of chips, or you grab something, right? But by recognizing the stress as a trigger, you can actually build maybe some sort of switch with that habit, some sort of alternative habit, like, hey, I'm feeling stressed because of X, Y, and Z. Let me go on a walk. Let me actually journal about this, get some of these feelings, these words out on paper and out of my brain. Maybe you do some meditation, some deep breathing work. Another one is just lack of planning. That's me, right? Like I was just talking about, when I'm more proactive, when I'm prepared, when I have a plan in place, I just feel more confident in general. So have you ever opened the fridge door after a long day and think, oh, there's nothing here, so let's order a takeout? Well, a lack of planning sets you up to make those impulsive decisions. And I always say this. Maybe I'll do a podcast on how to become more disciplined and have more willpower. A big reason for discipline and willpower is you see individuals who have a lot of discipline and willpower is because they're actually really good at planning. Because all they're doing is making decisions ahead of time versus in the moment. Because we know mental fatigue is a real thing. We make 35,000 plus decisions a day. So for this example, at the end of the day, when you don't have anything planned out or prepared, it's really easy and convenient to just go order out, fall off track, maybe just snack all night long. But when we have a plan in place and we make these decisions ahead of time, you go into the night thinking, all right, this is my meal. This is what's prepared. This is what I have. It's a little bit easier to stay disciplined and on track with things. So when it comes to a lack of planning, the solution maybe is just prepping meals, having things ready to go. Maybe it's just at least having ingredients ready to go. Obviously, this is individualized of what works with you and what layer you have to take it to as far as how much you have to prep. But just finding what works with you and where you can stay consistent and where you can still stay aligned with your goals. And then sort of the last big common issue I guess I see is more of like the weekend mindset slash social settings. Many people work hard during the week, the 9 to 5s, only to treat the weekend sort of like this free for all. And this could really, undo your progress over the course of the last 5 days you had. Sort of this all or nothing mindset is maybe a better way to put it for this weekend mindset. And instead of focus on moderation, you're just got the case of the fuck, it's what I like to call. And you just overindulge. You're drinking all the drinks. You're eating all the foods. There's no limits. You're way less mindful. But again, this could even go back to having a little bit more plan for the weekend. Maybe it's having a little bit more balance, a little bit more flexibility during the week so you don't feel such a big urge on the weekend. So again, obviously the solution can be individualized here, but these are just some of the common issues I see. And if there's anything you want a little bit more information on, have a little bit more, maybe we do a whole podcast on one of these to come up with some possible solutions, just send me a message. I'd love to chat about it. So to kind of close up this last point, when diving into these root problems, obviously it's uncomfortable, right? We don't want to deal with our shit. We don't want to feel that uncomfortable feeling. But what we want to do is actually create awareness. Again, it's never about being perfect, but be more aware. Start to get some more answers on maybe why you do the things you do. And once you identify these patterns that maybe are holding you back, you can start to change them. You can start to challenge them. And again, like I said before, you can start to work with them. This isn't a quick fix, but it's a long-term investment into your health that could make all the difference for your health. And when you take the time to tackle these underlying challenges, fat loss becomes easier and way more sustainable. The beginning of this podcast, when you hammer down your foundation, the food and fitness become that much easier. It becomes that much more even enjoyable for some individuals to stay consistent with and accomplish, because we're taking care of this foundational work, especially this last one, as far as diving into those root causes of why you're maybe behaving the way you're behaving. So to close things out here, this phase of addressing underlying issues is your chance to take back control. It's about acknowledging the things that trip you up, understanding why they happen, and building these strategies to overcome them. Once you tackle these root causes, you'll stop spinning your wheels over and over and start to make real, lasting progress. So there you have it, the phase 1 of fat loss, the foundational phase, your all-season proof planning. Remember, consistency over time will always beat perfection any day. If you listen to this entire episode, I really want to say thank you. I appreciate you. If you have any questions, want any resources that may help with something that really stuck out with you today, just hit me up on Instagram, or you can send me a message or an email, kpd@kpd.fit. Instagram's easy, @kpd.fit. And in next episode, we're actually going to dive into phase 2 of the fat loss phases, the 4Fs and everything. So food and fitness, and we'll get a little bit more into the principles so you can know the facts as far as like, what's it take to lose weight, build your metabolism, all this sort of stuff, and kind of dive into that a little bit more. But until next time, go keep crushing your goals. Go eat the damn donut. And if you need anything, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out. I always love talking with individuals, having conversations and whatnot. So definitely reach out, and we'll talk soon. I always believe in you, and I'm always here for you. See you soon.